What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Open Great League once again, and the team that we're taking a look at today is Stunfisk, Galisopod, and Shadow ALOLAN Ninetales. Now, we've seen the Stunfisk Galisopod core. It's absolutely everywhere. It's extremely strong. But the Pokemon we're going to be taking a look at today is actually Shadow ALOLAN Ninetales. Now, this thing is an absolute beast, especially when so many teams are disrespecting Ice. I saw so many teams that were double weak to Ice, and I decided I needed to capitalize on it. And what better Pokemon to pair it with than the Stunfisk, because it covers pretty much all of Ninetales' weakness. So we're putting it in the back as a closer with the Shadow bonus. We are using Psyshock because that got buffed this season, and with the Shadow bonus, it's honestly a really solid move even though it's non-stab. So before we hop into the battle, a special thank you to the expert trainer members on this channel, Benny Hemlock, Dr. Green Mustache, and Soham Patil, as well as the legend trainer members on this channel, Big Burden, Andrew Pitton, Moosechu, Noodleman, Speedster, Estros, and Liminal Lagomorph. So without further ado, let's hop into these battles. Okay, into the first match, we have Stunfisk into Jellicent. This is a neutral lead, but we will stay in this matchup because Thundershock and Discharge are both super effective. If the opponent throws an alignment like they did, then I'm going to be able to outpace to the back-to-back moves before they're able to get to Surf number 2. Which is really nice, and if they try and go for good timing, then I can always try and catch out of this matchup onto my Galisopod. So I'm going to throw one Thundershock, go for the catch. I'm unsuccessful. My opponent actually holds onto their energy there, proving that they just do not like throwing on good timing. And in comes the Galisopod. We take a Shadow Ball, doesn't hurt that much. We can get to an Aqua Jet that picks up the knockout on the Jellicent, and now my opponent does have switch advantage, but we have shield advantage. In comes a Dedenne. Dedenne now will be met with an Aqua Jet, and this will do some nice solid chip, especially because they can't boost their defense first. That actually puts them into the yellow health range. They kind of know that their Dedenne has no play here, so I'm just going to come in with my Stunfisk. I'm probably going to respect a play rough, because I don't really want them to boost their defense and then get out of hand to that Pokemon in the back. And in the back, it is a Shadow Gligar. We switched so fast, and my opponent threw an alignment. So I think if this is the dig, which it is, I can go for the full Powder Snow Farm Down, come out with nearly 3 Weather Balls loaded. And yeah, my opponent has absolutely nowhere to go here. All they have left is the Dedenne. Dedenne is going to just resign the match, and we are able to take a Game 1 win. Scizor. So this is a pretty good lead because Scizor, of course, has access to Bullet Punch, which is resisted in this matchup, which is part of the reason we're running Stunfisk on the lead. Mud Bomb does connect. This is the non-shadow, so they can live that fairly comfortably, and they're not worried about a farm down. However, that means I can also live a Trailblaze right back. I'm now going to go for a Discharge, and the reason I'm going for a Discharge here is because a lot of Scizors have water Pokemon in the back. So had they gone for a catch, Discharge still would have been enough to KO, and if they had caught, it would have landed super effective on a Pokemon in the back. That said, they actually get the boost, which means they're able to get the full resisted Bullet Punch farm down. I can now come in with my Galisopod. I can take one Night Slash, no problem, and then I will just go for the full Fury Cutter farm down. Night Slash connects. That actually does big damage to the Galisopod. What's in the back? It's a Wigglytuff. I'm going to pivot into my ALOLAN Ninetales, and they are not getting out of this matchup until they bank all of that energy and then come in with a Zoom Roll. Now they are one charm away from a Swift, and I have to be aware of that because this Zoom Roll is probably only going to get to one charge move before I'm able to hit them with 3 Psyshocks in order to pick up the knockout. So there's Psyshock number 2. I'm already at Psyshock number 3. My opponent is just now getting to a play rough. They end up baiting with an Ice Beam. I am low enough, so it kind of makes sense, but I am 1 off the Weather Ball, so I'm going for the Psyshock here. And I know I will be able to outpace, so I'm just going to stay in this matchup and go for the Weather Ball. Weather Ball will chip this Wigglytuff, and if they go for the extra charm, trying to get the charm down of the Ninetales, which they do, I'm able to pivot into my Galisopod, CMP tie with the Aqua Jet, pick up the knockout, Fury Cutter farm down the Azumarill, and we are able to take that win. Okay, Stunfisk into Greninja. This is once again a fairly neutral lead, but my opponent is over farming, which allows me to outpace, make it to a Discharge. This is super effective damage. Of course, my opponent will respect that. I'm then going to go for the Hydro Cannon catch onto my Galisopod where it is resisted, and we did get that catch, which is super nice. In comes the Emolga. We are able to outpace the Emolga by a singular turn because we snuck a Fury Cutter onto the Greninja on the lead when we caught. However, my opponent can outpace me to the back-to-back charge moves because of the pacing of our Emolga here, and Emolga does pick up the knockout. However, Emolga is completely walled against our Stunfisk, and of course we don't really want to take unnecessary damage on our Ninetales, so just going to come in with the Stunfisk. They full send the Acrobatics. In comes a Credilli. I'm going to chip the Credilli with a Mud Bomb because I know that this should put it maybe just out of Weather Ball range, because it is Shadow. They are the non-Shadow, so they probably can live this in the red, but they are going to commit the shield. I'm just going to commit the shield right back because I have such a pacing advantage in this matchup. I can even overfarm in this matchup because they are now on their 6th cycle for Acid. That allows me to overfarm by 2. Going for the Weather Ball, this will be able to pick up the knockout on the CMP tie. Are they going to come back in with a Greninja? They are. I'm now going to be able to connect with a Weather Ball. Weather Ball from this range probably will... no, it's not going to grab it. Actually, they don't have any shields left in play. This forces their energy, however. Maybe they were anticipating a snipe because they undertapped the move, but I don't have any energy here. And however, I can just get the full Thundershock farm down. There's nothing my opponent can do. They cannot get to the back-to-back charge moves. They even get the boost for the road, but it does not matter because here comes a discharge. This is neutral damage against the Emolga. Their energy dry. It picks up the knockout, and we are able to take the win. Into next match, we've got Stunfisk into Dragonite. So once again, a neutral lead, but this is a neutral lead where we outpace to the first charge move, which is really nice because the opponent is really glassy, so we can kind of dictate how shields are used in this matchup. However, of course, their fast move damage is doing a lot more damage than ours is. We've only put them in the green health range. However, we would be able to make it to 3 discharges before my opponent is able to get the full farm down. So we just kind of have to watch for a catch here. However, I make a dumb play and I just go right for the discharge as soon as I get it because my opponent hadn't thrown their energy yet. I end up catching onto a Marowak where it's double resisted, but at least we have the alignment that we need. The opponent only ends up settling for a Bone Club here, which is resisted, so I will just let this go, and that actually allows me to overfarm pretty significantly past the back-to-back, throwing on the CMP tie. They have no shield left in play, so this Aqua Jet will secure the knockout onto the Marowak. In comes the Dragonite. They probably would have won CMP either way, but I probably should have thrown just in case. That said, Dragonclaw does pick up the knockout here. In comes the Ninetales, I assume. Yep, and it is a Sand Slash in the back. And yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how a Ninetales is going to beat a Ice Steel in the back, unless, of course, we can make it to the Mud Bomb. This is super effective damage onto the Sand Slash. It puts them into the red health range, and even though I went for the wrong move on the first time around, I should have gone for the side shot because that's single resisted as opposed to Weather Ball, which is double resisted. I know I can live one move. They're going to get to the back-to-back. I just have to throw before the Dragonite gets to a 3rd charge move, so I have to watch for the Dragonite coming back in. In comes the Dragonite. Dragonite instantly will be met with the Weather Ball. This is double super effective damage. It's definitely going to pick up the knockout. Can we get the Powder Snow farm down of the Sand Slash? We can, and somehow we're able to take that win. Mirror leads in the next match. Stunfisk into Stunfisk. So the way I like to play this out is I never throw my charge move on the CMP tie. So I always overfarm until the very last one where I throw the Mud Bomb on the CMP tie. And hopefully I win CMP because I have kind of attack weight on my Stunfisk. And what I like to do is if they shield that first Mud Bomb on the second Mud Bomb, where I'm going to win CMP for the second time, but they know this, so they have a high incentive to catch, I almost always go for a discharge, and it usually lands on something super effective. I don't believe that was actually in this matchup. I believe this opponent just lets it go, which they do, but you're going to see probably something weak to the electric in the back, and it is the Drifloon. So had they gone for that catch, I would have made that play. It would have landed super effective. Drifloon now will actually shield up the Thundershock. They will get the full Astonish farm down, but in comes the ALOLAN Ninetales. I'm going to shield up a potential Shadow Ball here. Icy Wind is resisted. They do full send the Shadow Ball, which is nice. In comes Galisopod, and unfortunately, their Galisopod has an energy lead, So I'm never going to be able to catch up in this matchup. So all they have to do is kind of shield up this charge move, and I'm in a pretty difficult situation. However, I don't think they can get the full farm down. It's going to be really, really close. They end up committing to it, but they do not get it. I end up winning the farm down, coming out with the charge move loaded. This will threaten the Drifloon. They know they have to let that go because I would get to a Weather Ball here, but they just cannot make 2 Shadow Balls, so they will just resign the match, and that is a 5-0 set. Yes, I did go 15-0 with this team. It was absolutely ridiculous. Fantastic lead in the next match. They save switch into an Azumarill, and Azumarill will be met with a super effective discharge before I pivot out of this matchup. So I'm going to connect with that, go for the Ice Beam catch onto my Galisopod. I'm unsuccessful. The opponent holds onto their energy. That means they can now connect with a Play Rough. Play Rough will hit for neutral damage, but because these bubbles are resisted, I can overfarm pretty significantly in this matchup, make it to an Aqua Jet. This is of course non-threatening. Everything is resisted. However, I will just shield this up. As more shields are in play, the better this matchup comes for the Galisopod. And now I can just farm up 2 back-to-back charge moves so that my opponent cannot shield. Can't quite get the Fury Cutter farmed up, but that's okay. Aqua Jet from this range will be able to pick up the knockout. My opponent is going to let that go. Back in comes the Talonflame, but I'm going to grab that shield right back unless they want their Talonflame to basically be KO'd. And they are going to commit the shield, which is really nice because we've maintained switch and we have the same amount of shields in play. Yes, they have a little bit of energy, but so do I. I'm able to outpace, make it to the discharge, and there's a high chance that my opponent is completely walled in this matchup. Both Brave Bird and Fly are resisted. It is the recommended moveset. Are they on Flame Charge? No, they are not. They full send the Brave Bird. I anticipate the pivot. It is a Credilli in the back. That allows me to outpace, make it to the Weather Ball before they're able to make it to Rock Tomb number 1. Of course, these assets are hitting for super effective damage. They will now be able to get to the Rock Tomb, but I can shield this up just like they did, just always matching shields in this matchup. I'm now going to go for the Weather Ball on the CMP tie. With my attack lowered, is this enough to pick up the knockout? It's super effective damage. It's stab. It picks up the knockout. 1 more Powder Snow, and then Weather Ball number 2. This is neutral damage on the Talonflame, but guess what? It still picks up the knockout. And Shadow ALOLAN Ninetales sweeps that endgame, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, bit of a tricky lead. We've got Stunfisk into Furret. The reason this is tricky is because bulk-wise we have a slight advantage, but they do have super effective Trailblaze, and these Sucker Punches do add up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to catch the Trailblaze where it is neutral onto my Galisopod, and by doing so, that means they're energy dry, which means I can outpace, make it to the Aqua Jet on the CMP tie if they throw right away, but they do not. They correctly overfarm, anticipating that. And now, can I get to another charge move? Looks like the answer is no. I highly expect my opponent to catch here, so I should just go for the X-Scissor, but I end up going for an Aqua Jet anyways. My opponent catches onto a Regidrago where it is resisted, but now I have the alignment that I need. In comes the Ninetales, and with our switch timers aligned now, we look to be in a really good position. They end up going for the harder hitting nuke, the Dragon Energy, but that is not enough to even do half HP to the Ninetales. We come out absolutely loaded with energy. What are they going to come in with? They're going to come in with a Forretress in the back. So now Forretress will be met with a Weather Ball. I'm probably going to go for 2 Weather Balls before I pivot out of this matchup, and I have enough energy where I can bank a 3rd Weather Ball in case we need it for later. And now in comes the Stunfisk. Stunfisk will lure out the Furret. They do have enough for a Trailblaze here, and this will hit for super effective damage if they go for it, which it does, but I can overfarm, pick up the knockout now with the Mud Bomb. From this range, Mud Bomb will be enough to pick up the knockout unless my opponent shields, which is an absolutely incorrect play because now I can make it to another Mud Bomb. This will definitely pick up the knockout now with no shields left in play. Can I get to another Mud Bomb? The answer is yes. That is absolutely amazing. And once this Mud Bomb connects, my switch timer will be up. I can snipe with the Ninetales, use that banked Weather Ball from earlier, and despite its resistance, it picks up the knockout on the Fortress, and we are able to take the win. Into the next match, we've got Stunfisk into Jumpluff. Now, this is a good lead, especially if they are on the double flying moveset, which a lot of Shadow Jumpluffs are. So I'm hoping I can just stay in this matchup, resist all of their charge moves, and be in a really good position. It turns out, as I learned in this matchup, even if they're on the double flying moveset, if they connect with 2 acrobatics and then an aerial ace, they actually win the zeros. even though they only throw resisted charge moves, which is absolutely ridiculous. It kind of just shows you how weak these discharges are, and these thunder shocks. They just don't do anything to the Jumpluff. So yeah, I take 2 acrobatics there, and now they're at the aerial ace. I throw in the Stampede Tie, throwing as late as possible. Discharge doesn't pick up the knockout, and look at that, they're going to take the 0 shield scenario, which is absolutely insane. Completely resisted. I'm going to come in with my Galisopod now, get a Fury Cutter head start. I don't want to show them the ice coverage in the back just yet, but in comes an Annihilate, and if Annihilate is your best answer to a Galisopod, then something is clearly wrong with your team. So I'm going to connect with an Aqua Jet, but I plan on banking some of this energy or saving some of the health on my our Galisopod here, in the off chance that they're super weak to this in the back. But they do connect with a Rage Fist, not enough to pick up the knockout. I catch the second Rage Fist onto my Ninetales, but then I'm like, you know what? I kind of don't have that much HP left on my Galisopod, so I kind of need to shield this. I can get the Powder Snow farm down, and my opponent realizes this, so they pivot into their final Pokemon, which is a Galisopod, which is a Dugong, which explains why they couldn't come into the Galisopod, because they were completely walled. That said, I'm able to make it to back-to-back side shocks before my opponent even throws their energy. They look like they're trying to farm 2 back-to-back charge moves. They're currently at 8, so what I'm going to do is throw 1 Powder Snow, catch onto my Galisopod when they get to the back-to-back charge moves. Only 9 ice shards to get there. We get the catch. It is the catch of the drill run that is absolutely massive. We can now use our shield. This is almost for sure to be an Icy Wind bait, but that's okay. Icy Wind is shielded up, and now all I have to do is watch for a catch. The opponent goes for it. They are unsuccessful. Now here comes a neutral Psy Shock, and after landing like 5 of these, we are finally able to pick up the knockout on the Dugong, and we can take that win. Into next match, another Talonflame Lead. This is a good lead. The opponent is going to safe switch into a Dusclops. I'm going to overfarm here, try and go for the Ice Punch catch onto my Ninetales, but I am unsuccessful. So now I'm in what I think is a negative matchup in the 1 shield scenario. So I kind of just have to play this out and potentially soft lose this to get an energy lead on my Galisopod. That's kind of all I can think about doing, because if I come out with an energy lead on my Galisopod, then I'm in a pretty good position here. So here comes Weather Ball number 1. I was going to go for Weather Ball number 2, but my opponent undertaps the move, not allowing me to get there. Shadow Punch is going to grab a shield, but now here comes a Weather Ball. And if I can keep alignment, I absolutely will. The opponent does let that go, which allows me to get a Powder Snow farm down. Back in comes the Talonflame. Talonflame will be met with a Weather Ball. This is neutral damage, but they are going to let that go because they know they're aligned against a Stunfisk. Stunfisk going to come back in, and it's an Azumarill in the back. So very similar game plan here as I did with the last Talonflame Azumarill team. All these teams disrespecting Electric, which is so bizarre when Dedenne and Morpeko exist. That said, I connect with 2 discharges this time and then pivot into my Galisopod because I am down to shield. So I know I can live 1 play rough. That's going to be no issue, but I cannot live 2. And now that I've connected with 2 discharge, I can put them in range where I can fully farm them down. Or not fully farm them down, but at least threaten some shields with these Aqua Jets. Shield number 1 is grabbed. They end up catching the second Aqua Jet on their Talonflame. Bit of an interesting play, maybe trying to commit to the Azumarill. No, they're going to end up shielding that up. They can't even get the full farm down. Here comes a third Aqua Jet. Galisopod putting in so much work in this matchup. They can't even get the full bubble farm down. They're going to be forced to throw energy. And yeah, with a shield left in the bank, I've got Stunfisk and a Dream. And yeah, we're in the green HP. They have no chance, so they will just resign the match. Into next match, we've got Stunfisk into Regidrago. How do we like to play this lead? We don't. We switch out of the into Galisopod because Galisopod, if you switch instantly, can outpace the Regidrago by a single turn. Remember, it takes 10 turns to get to an X-Scissor. Switching takes 1 turn, which means that's 11 turns, whereas it takes 12 turns to get to a Breaking Swipe. So able to outpace by a single turn, connect with the X-Scissor. In comes a Tinkaton. Tinkaton now will be met with an Aqua Jet. 2 of those, not enough to pick up the knockout, but my opponent ends up throwing on the CMP tie, meaning they have to take that second Aqua Jet, and I am definitely just going to let this go. Play rough will be enough to pick up the knockout on Galisopod, but now we're in a really good position. I can take any 1 charge move on my Stunfisk, so I am just going to come in with the Stunfisk. We've lured out the Steel, which Ninetales absolutely doesn't want to see, and we'll have a nice energy lead for the Pokemon on the lead. They do connect with a play rough, but we are able to get the full Thundershock farm down. In comes a Toedscruel. Toedscruel is double weak to ice, so these Powder Snows are doing massive damage, and this Weather Ball is massive overkill. They end up going for the shield, or committing the shield, now going for a wrap after one more Mud Slap, and these Mud Slaps are doing a lot of damage. They end up sniping with the Regidrago, but I believe this is only enough for a breaking swipe. That is double resisted. Can I get the full farm down? I'm not going to risk it, so I am just going to go for the Weather Ball to pick up the knockout. I know that I can just farm down the Toedscruel. I mean, maybe not with my attack debuff, so here comes a Weather Ball. This will probably grab the final shield from the opponent, but I have so much energy on my Stunfisk, and yeah, Stunfisk, yes, Thundershock and Discharge are triple resisted, but these Mud Bombs are only single resisted, and with this much energy and no shields left in play for my opponent, they are going to get knocked out, and we are able to take that win. And that is another 5-0 set. Okay, Stunfisk into Galisopod. So this is a neutral lead, but slightly negative in the fact that they get to the Aqua Jet at the exact same time we get to Discharge, so I overfarm. My opponent ends up going for a Discharge catch onto their Diggersby, but now that allows me to align my Galisopod in a fantastic matchup. Diggersby has absolutely nowhere to go in this matchup. They have to go for non-stab fire punches because Scorching Sands are resisted, and these fire punches, it takes 3 to pick up the knockout on a decent IV Galisopod, and they just cannot get the quick attack farm down before we get the Fury Cutter farm down. So I am going to throw the energy. If they want to commit a shield, they can, but it's not going to help them because, which they do, they're trying to flip switch, but it doesn't matter. You're going to see the fast move pressure of Fury Cutter here versus quick attack, and guess what? We're going to get the full farm down, come out with energy loaded. X's are now will threaten neutral damage against the Galisopod of their own. Remember, they did go for a catch attempt, so they get the farm down. They have a lot of energy. In comes a Jumpluff in the back, and we have the alignment that we need. Ninetales hitting for double super effective damage. Super effective on grass and ice, which is absolutely massive. I'm now going to let this go because Stunfisk can probably win this game for me. Energy Ball, not enough to pick up the knockout here. I am going to play to the CMP tie, throwing at the very last second. Weather Ball picks up the knockout on the non-shadow Jumpluff. Back in comes the Galisopod. Can they get to a charge move? They cannot, or they can't get to the back-to-back. So here comes the Psyshock. Psyshock picks up the knockout on the Galisopod, and we are able to take that win. Into the final match of the video, we've got Stunfisk into Salazzle. This is a fantastic lead because ground hits for double super effective damage, or not double, yes, double super effective damage, and in comes a Thievul of all things. So I respond with the Galisopod. Now I have 2 answers to Dark in the back, and arguably I should have come into my Ninetales because then I'd come out with a Psyshock loaded, which is super effective damage on the Salazzle. That said, this is still an okay matchup. If my opponent wants to flip switch, they're going to have to commit 2 shields, and then I can just come in with my Ninetales and get the full farm down. So they are going to commit 2 shields. They have flip switch, which looks like it could be really bad because obviously Ninetales takes super effective damage from fire. And Poison does super effective on Fairy, so really bad matchup there it seems, but this is where that Psyshock coverage is really nice coverage. I throw 1 Powder Snow and then the Psyshock so that Incinerate doesn't register, and the Psyshock will be enough to one-shot the Salazzle. Is a Scrafty in the back, and we are able to take that win. So yeah, that is Shadow Alolan Ninetales. This thing is an absolute beast. I couldn't believe the run I went on today. I believe I went 22-3 on the day, like 3 losses, and one of those should have been a win. Actually, 2 of those I think should have been a win. One of them I just completely lagged out, the game froze, and the second one my charge move didn't show up when I came in with my Ninetales, and I would have won CMP to win the game because I had banked the move. So I actually would have gone 24-1 with this team, but instead I went 22-3. That's still a fantastic record. I gained probably about 200 elo back, which is good. Back into the 2700s always feels good, and now I can officially start making that legend push. We're getting towards the end of the season. More people are hitting legends, so it's time to really start grinding and showcasing some more powerful teams that you guys can use. But yeah, that said, that's gonna be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.